the Exchange Place podcast, y'all. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? We are back in the building. And as you can see, I have a beautiful guest today. She's new to the Exchange family, but she is not new to me, y'all. So we have Lea in the building.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Seriously, so this show, as I was preparing this morning, and I'm not gonna get myself started this morning, but I was really thinking of the level of courage that you have to come on. Mm-hmm. And I just thank you for being here because I know that this episode, I think like most, but like this episode will definitely bless somebody, knowing your story and your journey.
That's all I can hope for.
Yeah, and I'm proud of you for being able to tell the story because I think a lot of times, even with myself, and of course but even with myself for a long time, I don't think it was something that I necessarily talked about, right?
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of people that
aren't talking about it.
You don't realize it until you go through it.
Yeah.
And then you share, and then everybody's like, oh, I've been through that too.
Yeah. So I wanted you to come on, and I've mentioned on the show probably several times about myself losing my first son. I've never gone into real depth about that, but it's always been a special place in my heart. And me and you, I've known you, now from, I want to say like 2014, 13, somewhere. I want to say that. Am I lying?
I think maybe more like 17.
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I trust you. My dates at this point, listen, y'all, I done lost 2 years in the pandemic. I don't even know what date is it. Because I feel like we met at a gym, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like it could have been my second time going. So I went 2 times. So I stopped going at a point and then I went back. So it could be my second time.
Okay.
So that could be the date discrepancy. That's what I'm going to say, y'all. I ain't going to tell you and blame it on my age, but it probably is. But we talked about, I think we ended up having a conversation about before about losing children. And I think it's, again, something that people don't talk about. A lot of times, I don't even want to just hold it to women, but I think women and men suffer in silence in keeping that emotion and that feelings down. So I want to talk about your story because it is one that I know is going to be a blessing to someone else. So if you could just kind of start back, I guess, from your first experience with losing a child. And
so I got married in 2009 and we got preface it, before I got married, I had a comb biopsy done.
Okay.
So, you go to the doctor and they do the pap smear.
Yeah.
And it came back, they said that the pap smear came back positive. So they had to do a comb biopsy.
Okay.
So with the comb biopsy, they cut a piece of your cervix to test it and everything. So I got that done before I got married. So that had to be like maybe 2008. And sorry, I look at my husband because he remembers all the dates and I don't. But so it had to be like 2008. And then we got married in 2009. 2010 was when I got pregnant.
Okay.
So I got pregnant for the first time in 2010. And that pregnancy ended up in a miscarriage.
Okay. And how far along were you at that point?
I believe I was about 3 months.
Okay. I
believe. And when you get pregnant, you don't ever think that it's not going to work out. Especially, I just got married, so now I'm a wife and everything.
And
so
the next thing
you
is
automatically think, first comes love, then comes then comes the baby,
Yeah.
So it's like you never really think that that it's not going to work out. So I was pregnant, went through everything, and then my water broke at home. We went to the emergency room, and we were waiting in, I won't say which emergency room because it's horrible, and never go back there again.
Yeah.
But we went to the emergency room and sitting in the waiting area, just waiting, just waiting. Meanwhile, my water broke and everything, and they just had me waiting. And then I felt like I had to use the bathroom. So I went into the bathroom, and as I'm going to use the bathroom, I miscarried in the bathroom. So it was very traumatizing because now I'm in the bathroom, and I got to get to the door to open the door. They wouldn't let my husband in until they came in first and took care of everything. And I'm on the floor, like wrapped around a nurse's leg. And that was the first one. That was the first one. I don't remember like exact dates and stuff for everything. So it just kind of all kind of lumps up. And then I went on to have 5 more after that.
So at the point that you lost the first one, I just want to back up. Like, what are you thinking at that point? And I asked that because, and I kind of want to share in that sense. I remember, and I lost my son a little further down. I was probably about 26 weeks, 26, 27 weeks that when I lost him. But I remember a huge level of feeling inadequate, right? Like kind of like you said, like as a woman,
you're supposed to be
able to have children, and that was something that never at all had ever crossed my mind. Like, oh, I won't be able to have children. I'm like,
that's not a thing.
That's just not a thing. You
don't
get
even
pregnant,
think about it.
and the pregnancy is going to continue, and for it to end in the middle, like where are you mentally? I guess is my question. At that point, the first time,
probably a little lost, confused, unsure, but still in a place of hope. So it's like, so with what I have, they don't really diagnose it until you have multiple. So at that point, it was like, oh, maybe this is just kind of like a fluke, like, okay, it happens.
It happens,
type of thing. And then you just go on to, possibly try again.
And what can you speak to? What exactly is the condition? Because I want to talk to people who may be having or have that condition or think that they may have something. Because I know for me, I was just like, I was going to all these doctors and specialists, and everybody's kind of throwing out all these
different
words.
Things,
and I was super young too. So I also feel like not having the knowledge or not kind of investigating things myself back then, like kind of left me there. So what is the actual condition?
So the doctor said that I have an incompetent cervix. Okay. So basically, my cervix, as the baby grows, my cervix gets weaker.
Gotcha.
And then it starts to open up as the baby gets bigger and bigger. Yeah. So then you have to get a cerclage done. What a lot of people don't know is that there's different cerclages. And most of the doctors only do the basic one, which is called the McDonald cerclage. But you have the McDonald cerclage, then you have a transvaginal cerclage, and you have the transabdominal cerclage.
Okay.
I found that out on Facebook, on a Facebook group.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah. So there's a Facebook group. It's called Abby Loopers on Facebook, and it's pretty much everybody that has had incompetent cervix.
Wow.
And they have a group, they put the doctors in there because the McDonald cerclage, most of the OBGYNs do it. Okay. The other two, it's not, most of them don't do it. Okay. So you have to find the doctor that does it. And I had to, my last pregnancy, I did the transvaginal cerclage. And I had to go, it was practically almost in Philly that I had to go to get it done. Wow. That was the closest doctor that did it.
So I've had the transvaginal cerclage for my second son. I'm like that I had to count, not the one that I lost, the second one. But I didn't realize it was so, I guess, exclusive now that only certain doctors.
So the regular one, they all do it, the McDonald cerclage. And you get that one at 12 weeks. Okay. You get that one. And it's not, they don't have to put you to to sleep or anything like that with it. You can just get it done regular. The transvaginal, I had to be, no, was I put to sleep for the transvaginal one? No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I was like, wait a minute, was I? No, I wasn't. Okay. They just give you the spinal tap, the
Okay.
epidural type.
I was about to say I had meds. I can't remember if I was. It was a while ago. It was quite some time ago. He's almost 20 now, so
He's a grown man.
yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, you get an epidural for that one. The trans-abdominal you get done before you get pregnant.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the one that they do the surgery, they cut you.
That's the one that you actually have to have a C-section for. Okay.
Yes. So that actually would be my next step if I planned on having again. Because I did the McDonald and that one didn't hold, and I did the transvaginal, which was for my last one, and that didn't hold. So my next step would be the transabdominal.
Gotcha. I love that it's a Facebook group. So I didn't know that there was a Facebook group, if I can talk, right? I didn't know that there was a Facebook group, but I love that there's a support group.
Yeah.
And then that group for the listeners who are listening, can you tell the name again one more time?
It's called Abby Loopers.
Abby Loopers. Okay.
And you can go on there, and it's pretty much everyone that has had incompetent cervix. They have a list of all the doctors that do the different cerclages, and they talk about the cerclages and explain the difference to through all of them. And it sucks that you can't really get all that information from your doctor. You have to go to social media and find out all the different things. So.
Okay, so let's go back to, you said you were, of course, you had hope again. So kind of walk me through, I guess, the other pregnancies. Like, so the second time that you get pregnant. So
the second, it's going to be kind of jumbled because I don't remember them exactly.
Yeah. But I really want to, I want to get what you're feeling more so than.
Okay. So the first one was probably one of the most traumatizing ones. Then like the second and third one was, so, when you have a miscarriage, you get a DNC done. Because of the DNC, I think it maybe was like the fourth one, third or fourth one, they do so much scraping, you get scar tissue. The scar tissue created amniotic bands. And so the baby was developing the brain outside of the skull. It was anencephaly. That's what it was called, anencephaly. So for that one, we actually had to make the decision because the doctor said that we could keep going with it, but if we do, the baby would only last like maybe a couple hours to like a day or so. And then it was a lot of medical issues that would happen that could affect me with the baby progressing.
Yeah.
So that one we decided to terminate. Then one, I believe, was like a regular miscarriage where we just start bleeding.
Yeah.
And then the one that I had, the McDonald cerclage, that one I actually went. I believe I was feeling something. We went to the doctor for a visit, and as the doctor was doing the visit, my water broke. So from there, we had to go to the emergency room, and they have to take out the cerclage, and then you actually have to deliver at that point. You have to go into labor and delivery. And we got pregnant again. I don't know. And sometimes it's like you wonder like why, like, okay, did I put myself through all of this by continuing to get pregnant again and again? But we just always had hope. Yeah.
No.
And
as you should.
And so and each time, like my husband and I, we got pregnant, and it was still the excitement of, okay, this is it type feeling. And then it just, kind of ended.
Yeah.
And then the last one was the furthest. So I made it to 5 months.
Okay.
And I think this one, everybody thought like this was it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I had to get the transvaginal cerclage done. That's the one I went to Philly to get done. And so we just thought again, like
This is
it. And then, you know, as you go further from the last time, it's like, okay, I'm past that point that I was before. And then you kind of feel like, oh, okay, you know, I'm past. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm past that point.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get that hope again, you know, renewed hope. And in the beginning, I think it's like a feeling of nervousness because you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you kind of like battle with nervousness and hope all at the same time.
Yeah.
And then after a point, you kind of get comfortable.
Okay.
You know, the nervousness kind of goes, especially once you pass a certain point. The nervousness kind of goes away, and then you kind of get comfortable. We name the baby, and you know, you start planning. Then you start telling people because it's like, oh, okay,
you're past that. Yeah.
And then again, we were home, and my water broke, and I was feeling pain, but afterwards, when I think about it, you know, in hindsight, I had been feeling a sort of pain maybe for like 2 days prior, but in my
like
mind,
pressured pain or just
it was like I thought of it at the time as stretching because when your uterus stretches and everything stretches, they say that you get like that little tinge type of
I know
feeling.
exactly what you mean.
But sometimes now when I think back, I'm like, I wonder if that was contractions.
Yeah.
Because when I did go to the hospital, they put me on the monitor and everything, and they said that I was having like slight contractions. So then I'm wondering like, oh man, you know, you start thinking like, what if I had gone earlier? You know, maybe I could have avoided this and stuff. And then we went to the hospital, and now I have the transvaginal cerclage. So it's a whole process to take it out. My OBGYN, she tried to take it out right there, like without having to go to for surgery.
Yeah.
But it didn't work because it's higher than the regular one. So I had to go into surgery, have them take it out, and then once they take it out, now I got to go through labor and delivery. And I have to deliver, and then they ask you if you want to see the baby, but we didn't. And then I have to wait and deliver the placenta. So now all this time, it's like it's frustrating sometimes because it's like you just want it to be
over
quick. Yeah. Like, all right, let's just get this over with and keep moving type thing. And it's hard.
Yeah.
There's no other word really that I can. It's just hard.
Yeah.
You know, something hard to deal with. And I now I have a life coach now. I did counseling now, but I never did it with any of the other ones.
I was gonna ask you that. So all the 5 times that you had lost, you never had any counseling.
No.
Yeah. I always say that's one of the things that I wish I would have done prior to even getting pregnant with my 2 children that I have now, because I was in such. I can relate to you. I was in such. I don't think I ever calmed down during my pregnancies. I was like counting the days to get to the next day, to get to the next week, to see, you know what I mean, that they were going to come here and be healthy. My youngest I actually had at 27 weeks. And like I shared with you before, I remember I went to labor at my mom's house. And I remember, you know, the whole ride to the ambulance, go to the hospital. And I remember getting there and them telling me to push. And my worst fear was I was going to deliver another baby that would not be alive. And I was just like, no. Like, no, they're like, no, you have to push. I was like, I just, you know, in the fear of going through that. And that's such a traumatic experience to know. You know, with my first son who I lost, I knew I was delivering a baby who was not going to be alive. I opted to see him. to have that same kind of repeat the same, you know what I mean, experience with my youngest son, who is healthy and was born at 2 pounds. But I remember the level of fear that I had. And I was just like, I think even the hospital, I was like, after that, I wanted the hospital to be set up differently because I felt like it was so unfair to people who were not leaving with anything.
Yeah.
Like, to still be in the same space to hear babies cry. Like, I literally, I still have that now.
I've changed, gosh, I don't know how many times I've changed doctors.
Doctors.
Yeah. The first one was a guy, was a male doctor. And then I went to St. Barnabas and was using their group that they had. Yeah.
I was there for a while.
And then decided to change to another one.
Yeah.
And it's just change. It's like you don't want the same outcome, so you feel like I'm gonna shift. I mean, it's weird because it's like it really does. I don't know if it matters so much.
I guess I don't know.
I think it's just a mental thing.
I was about to say I think it's mental, but I what I will say, especially for younger women, because I think again when I lost my oldest son, I was really young, and the group, and I won't mention what group it was, the group of doctors that I was with, I feel like they had no compassion. They just felt like, oh, you're young, you'll get over it. Just kind of go. Like, I remember that feeling, even when I went to the doctor to even be, for them to tell me to go to the hospital, like, basically it was kind of like, oh yeah,
just go.
Just kind of go. And I remember that feeling. And even going back after, it was kind of like, you're young, you'll be fine. Like, it was like nothing.
My first one was like that.
Yeah.
That first doctor was kind of like, just like
oh, it happens.
Yeah.
And I hated hearing that because it was kind of like, no, that doesn't just happen. And it was, again, not having, and I said this to you, for someone else to only be like, they know you were pregnant, but honestly, to experience life, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But other people not to have that same experience with that person. So losing somebody, if we lose our parents, other people experience them.
Yeah.
But to lose someone that you really, and probably your significant other, got to experience.
And nobody else did.
To grieve that looks so much different.
Yeah.
And I don't think people think about that.
And it's like a piece of you.
Yes.
That literally, like,
died.
You lose.
Like, you lost. You lost something that nobody else can see. Nobody else can kind of relate to. It's such a strain, I think, mentally.
And the sixth one is just as hard as the first one.
Oh, listen. I have living children and I still grieve my son. People are like, I don't understand. And I'm like, because one child does not replace
the next one.
Yeah. And it's totally for people who have multiple pregnancies. Children are different. Pregnancies are different. It's just different experiences. So it does not take away
from any of
that. I still to this day, and I think I was sharing with you, I still to this day, around the time that I lost my son, my significant other at that time, his cousins were pregnant. And to this day, if they put up their birthdays, instantly my mind goes there. Like, instantly. It's not something you forget. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes we don't, just as humans, like, we didn't experience it. So we didn't, you know what I mean? So people overlook that.
And that happens now. Like, I feel like every time I was pregnant, it was always like a million other people that are pregnant at the same time. And then everybody else goes on and has their kids. And then, sometimes you look at them and like, oh, this is how old my kid would be. This is how my child would be about this size now or something like that. So it's like the feeling, I don't think it ever goes away.
No.
You just learn how to live through the feeling.
Yeah.
You learn how to keep going through the feeling. And even like, my husband and I did a video at my church for, I believe it was Thanksgiving. And they wanted people to send in videos and talk about what they were thankful for. And I stopped because I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't send this video in because it's going to look different than what everybody else's video is going to be. So it's like everybody else is thankful for something. They have something to show that they're thankful for. And somebody else did a video and they were thankful about their baby. They had a baby and stuff. But I was thankful for the fact that I still had victory, even though the outcome that I wanted didn't come through. I still am able to smile. I'm still able to go on. It wasn't the same testimony, but I felt like God showed me at a certain point that when I looked back over my last pregnancy, I was able to see certain things that made me realize that God was there.
Yeah.
To the nurses in the hospital, I've had experiences. My first experience was horrible.
Yeah.
The nurses were not the nicest. The people weren't the nicest.
Nicest.
Nothing was like great about it. And I mean, not to say that my last experience was great, because by far it wasn't. But God placed people, the ambulance, the driver, like they're supposed to take you to a certain hospital. And they actually took me to the hospital I wanted to go to Summit. And they were like, it's okay, and then the medic in the back was talking to me about his wife and things his wife was going through and stuff like that. And it's just, in the moment, you don't think about it. But when you're out of the moment and you look back, you realize, like, okay, God was trying to show me, little glimmers of hope, little pieces of joy in the midst of that. And that, to me, I was thankful for. I was thankful that even though what looks like victory, because in my mind, victory would have been having the baby. But the reality is, I didn't. Does that make me any less victorious?
No, it doesn't.
Because I'm still standing and I'm still pushing, because Lord knows I could have not been standing, I could have not been here. So it affects a lot, but you have to push through. You have to push through it.
I love that perspective. I think not all the times do we, in the middle of what feels like kind of like we're, I don't want to say dying slowly, but like
the world's ending.
The world is ending. I'm like, basically, that we can see that perspective. It's almost like today, even in church, when they were saying, like, depending on from what view you look at things, will determine your perspective. And sometimes we can't see what God is doing, and even the why behind it. We may never know, but just having a basic understanding of, like, it's all working for your good. So you do have. And sometimes,
listen, I'm not gonna lie, I struggle.
Like, even you're human. We don't talk about that. Like,
I struggle. I'm like, human. God, really? Like, this is what we doing right now? But I'm pushing through. I'm pushing through, and I'm determined to make it. You
are making it.
So, thank you.
You are. I mean, to be able to sit here, I think I'm crying. Y'all can't see it, but I think I'm crying more than she is. On this side, though.
This side.
This is the side that I cry. So when you see me go like this, I cry. But just to sit here, like I said in the beginning, to have the courage, now, you know what I mean? My oldest son would be 23. To sit here and talk about it, I still get emotional, right? To even I would have never had the courage to talk about that experience.
It took time.
It
definitely took time. And I just feel like if I can, so it's the whole concept of purpose through pain. I think I had mentioned it. Like trying to find a purpose for why everything happens. And just being able to help someone else who may be going through it. And even if they're not going through exactly what I went through, but just to be able to share that I've been through things. And if I can make it through what to me was traumatizing, somebody else can make it through whatever they're going through that may be traumatizing to them, type of thing. So if I share, I share. And my
I'm glad
kids,
that you're
my
sharing.
kids to me, they're still my kids.
They are your kids, yeah.
And
no, don't be sorry.
I feel like they'll live on through me speaking about them,
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that. That's it. No, that's really it. That is it. I don't think I love that perspective because I don't think people think about it that way. Or have the lens to look at it that way. But that's an amazing perspective of like, yeah, they will live on, and yeah, they lived in you, even if no one else ever got to experience them.
Yeah.
So what? I know you said you have a life coach.
Yeah, my Sasha.
Hey, Sasha! Shout out to Sasha and those life coaches out there. What was different about? You said you never got therapy, I guess, prior, right? What was different about this time that you felt like you needed a life coach or a therapist or counseling or some type of form to like?
I think it was just the mindset. I'm not big on journaling. I'm not.
Okay.
It's hard to me to write stuff down. I think I work better talking to people. So it was, and then I had actually spoke at an event. It was weird because I think it was in June or July when I went to speak at an event. I miscarried Mother's Day of 2021. Really, God, why would you do it on Mother's Day? Not that he did it. Don't get me wrong, but and I was already scheduled to speak at this event. And in my mind, it was like, I'm going to speak from a place of going through something, but now being victorious because this is what I have to show, like we're making it through this. And then May came, I had the miscarriage, and I felt like I wasn't going to speak anymore because I didn't have nothing to speak about now. And my friend, she was like, no, but you still do. And so I still spoke, and my life coach actually spoke at the same event. Okay. And that's where I met her at.
Oh, wow.
That's where I met her. And so after hearing her speak and stuff, and it is just, I knew I needed to speak to someone. I just knew that I needed to speak to someone to help navigate through things. And I have my husband. My husband's always by my side.
He's here right now. Hey,
yes, he
honey.
is.
Okay. I love that.
And through all the miscarriages, he's right there, by my side. Never left. Another thing that I'm thankful for. And I mean, we've had the miscarriages definitely affected us, affected our marriage and stuff. But we're still, still here.
Yeah.
And I have him to speak to as well. But it's a difference speaking to someone that is a part of what you're going through, and then speaking to someone who is totally disconnected from anything you've been through or any, doesn't know you from Adam. So speaking to her has definitely helped me a lot.
You along. Yeah. I think we all need what I call talk therapy. The exchange is talk therapy for me. And for a lot of y'all listeners, I know it really is. I think in knowing what you said kind of earlier is like the exchange kind of gives people, it gives them mirrors of where they are and also windows of where to go or where they can possibly go. So I love that you did that because I think it's important. And I think the more that we talk about it, and whether you're talking is just for the listeners, some people journal. I can journal, but at the heart, I'm a talker. And so much so that I've gotten out of just writing my journal. I voice note my journal.
Yeah, I heard on one of your other shows you do voice memos instead of texting.
Yes, I'm a voice. Y'all, I'm sorry, but I am. I'm a voice memo, voice note. I talk. It's been I guess it's
Your
a
thing.
blessing for the show. For some people who are close to me, sometimes it's probably not because I can talk.
20-minute voice memo.
But
Like,
look,
really?
Yeah, because I need to get my thoughts out. Sometimes you need to talk those through. But I think it helps. For me, I know sometimes talking helps me process better than even writing. It's like, I never thought about that. And to hear it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hear yourself say certain things or say certain things out of your mouth makes a difference. So I love that you're doing that. For the women, I guess, that may be going through what you're going through or what you've conquered, because I feel like you are on the other side of that.
I'm getting there.
I think you are there. I think maybe not to what you feel like it's supposed to look like, but I think you are there because the day that you've experienced something that traumatized you, that hurt you in a way that could have took you out, and you have the boldness and the courage to come and talk to someone else who may be in your position, and it's not a selfish thing for you. It's like, yeah, I know what I'm going through, but I don't want to say put yourself aside, but you've put yourself aside enough to even sit here for the other people who may be at home who can't get up. You know what I'm saying? Like that. No, that's a conqueror. That's already a conqueror, and it may not look like how we always picture it. And I think sometimes, like you said, victory doesn't always look like
the same.
how we pictured it to look.
It's like depression doesn't always look the same.
Child. Depression is real too. And some people are functioning depressed. I know that well because I have functioned depressed. And with loss and great loss and repeated loss, whether it's children or people, people become numb. I know, like, grief is a mug, and it doesn't,
one of the things that
doesn't show up always.
One of the things my life coach mentioned was, like, she was telling me that I have detached my feelings from experience. So you can go through and deal with the experiences because you've detached your feelings from them.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
It's not healthy.
Yeah.
It's almost like a numb place. I know it well. And I'm not proud. I'm proud to say it because I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, I'm aware of it, even with death and death of anyone with me, it looks very different. And I have to sometimes come back to the experience and not so much like, I'll be like, people were like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. And I'm not
but
fine.
But really you're not.
And I'm not fine. But I can
mask it.
I can mask it enough for it to look a certain way. Again, I'm aware of it, so I'm very careful especially in death and loss, and grieving what that looks like. So I make sure that I take my moments to feel, because you can get to a place where you don't. And people think you are superhuman. I think sometimes, especially with the strong Black woman syndrome, and I call it that because I hate people to label strong, because I think strength, sometimes you can be strong, but I think sometimes with that title we take on things that we're not supposed to carry. And
you feel like you always have to be strong. And I feel like for men too.
Yeah.
It's like you go, in general, people go through things.
Men have a whole, I don't want to get too much into them, but I think they have a whole, I do want to be sensitive to them because I think they're, from the time that they're brought here, we're trying to make little boys men. Man up. Like, he's 2. he's not a man. And I think that carries on as much as we kind of laugh at it. And it's like, oh, you're the man, but you're telling a child that, and then they grow up with the weight of that. And a lot of men,
when
especially,
they go through things and they feel like they have to be
strong. It's like they don't feel. No, they've been taught not to feel. And we have to be very careful with that, even in losing children.
Yeah.
Like everybody talks about what we're going through, right?
But nobody sees it from the husband, the spouse, or the man's perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would think...
And it takes a toll on them as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, and again, we don't have your husband in the room, but I would think that his level of pain looks so much different because it's like there's nothing really he can actually do. Physically to, you know what I mean, help you carry, you can be there and all of that. But I would think it was also a helpless place of like, hey, I want to be there, but how to be there and what that looks like.
And then when everything happens, everyone looks at, oh, how is she doing? How is how's your wife doing? But nobody stops and thinks to say, well, how are you doing?
Wow.
To him on that end. So
that's a great point. I don't think we think about that.
Because it's the mother that carries, so you always think about her, but you never think about him, who is going through the journey, just as much.
As much. And lost a child just as much.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a great perspective. I'm sitting here because I'm like, I don't think we think about it. I don't think we think about, and I wonder if it's like a male support group of men talking. Men don't talk
Probably
as
not.
much. I know, but
probably not.
There's danger in that to me. It's so scary.
Because even in the group, the Abby Loopers group, it's all female.
It's all female.
Yeah. And it's not a requirement to get in the group that you have to be a woman. Anybody can get in the group.
Yeah.
But it's all female in the group.
Men suffer in silence a lot, though. I think throughout life, just in general, but I think especially in this place, and I'll share this because it just brought that back to me. So when I lost my oldest son, my significant other at the time, I remember I probably was the most, and I'm convicted as we're talking, because I probably was the most insensitive from his side and his perspective of like, yeah, you lost a child as well, especially in that moment, because all I could focus on two things. I probably felt the most inadequate as a woman. And he really loved children. And all I kept on thinking was, he's definitely going to leave me because
you can't have,
I won't be able to have children. Well, I never thought, again, and this is just a blessing for you to hear this, right? I never thought I was going to have kids. I never thought I was going to have kids. I am blessed enough to be the mother of 2 living boys. But I never, and I didn't have the level of hope. That's why, like, listening to your story, it always blesses me, because I didn't have the level of hope, like, oh, I'm just going to keep on trying. When I got pregnant with my oldest son that's living, I was scared to death. And it wasn't a hopeful, it wasn't an excitement, it wasn't any of that, because in my mind, I had made up my mind, again, I was a lot younger, in a totally different space than I am now, but I had made up my mind, like, I'm just not going to have children. And I remember the level of inadequacy I felt in that relationship, and never really considering how he felt. Like, I don't think I think at that time we probably were the most distant from one another, and not in a place to even have a conversation about, like, how he felt. Later on, I was blessed enough, probably a couple years back, me and him actually had a conversation about that, and it was so crazy, because it's like he felt totally, of course, the the lanes of communication were totally off. In his mind, he felt like, oh, well, he's a teacher, so he was like, well, if we didn't have children, I have plenty of kids. Like, it wasn't that heavy for him. But again, not communicating and not having that. That's why I love that your husband's here. I love that, you're considering his feelings, because I don't think we do. I think we get stuck in our mess.
I think for me, because even in the hospitals, I think I had a mindset, like, I felt inadequate, and I felt like, I don't even know how to explain it, like, I'm wrong kind of thing. So even in the hospital, I'm telling the nurses, sorry, for everything. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And they're like, you don't have to be sorry. It's okay. But, like, certain things I would, try to, I don't know. I don't even know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know exactly what it was. It's almost like I'm I'm not gonna say the bad person, but like,
You
I'm
felt
caused this.
responsible. Did you feel
Yeah.
responsible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I'm like telling the nurses sorry and, trying to accommodate them, whereas it should be the other way
Opposite
around.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like even with my husband, I asked him how he's doing, but from a male perspective, and we've actually had this conversation where he felt he had to be strong for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, two people feeling like, oh, I don't want to burden you, or I don't want to burden you. And then you just kind of keep it to yourself and keep moving, because you want to be strong, for the next person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope we can get away from that level of strong and be weak to one another. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Because I think in our weakness, that is really where strength lies. Yeah, it's really where it's like, hey, this is where I am. This is how I feel. We're allowed to feel. We're allowed to
and you
be in those
get
moments.
help. Sometimes you just have to get help. You can't take on everything on your own.
And whatever help looks like for you.
Yeah.
Like of course, I'm an advocate for therapy and whatever that, again, social worker, therapist, life coach, whatever that looks like for people. Sometimes that just looks like really having somebody who's close to you or that you trust with your feelings and trust that's a safe person that you can go to and have a conversation with. It's not always, a paid person, but somebody to listen to where you are that you feel like you really can share
your truth.
Yeah, I was about to say share how you feel. Because keeping that inside, girl, I am a witness. All the loss I've had in my life, oh my God, I'm like, God is real, because just the fact that I'm here is is a testimony itself, because you can drive yourself crazy with keeping all that stuff bottled up and just going, because at some point you are going to crash.
And then it just causes, it spirals over into other areas of your life.
I had fruit in all different areas, and it all went back to the 12-year-old little girl who lost her sister, who blames herself for not doing. That's why I said blame comes with grief, especially in losing someone, and whether that's your child or whatever. But I could see all this fruit that had developed over years. And it was all back to, and again, it was other stuff that happened in between, but like it really, the root of it was the little girl who felt like a bad, like what you were saying, I could relate in a different way, but I remember feeling that exact same way, like feeling responsible.
Yeah.
And usually it's like, I should have done this earlier. I should have did this.
It's like the first one is the fluke, but then you get to number 4, number 5, and it's like, okay, I must be doing something wrong.
What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And you're not doing anything wrong. I love that. So what, now where are you? I guess, like, through all of that, besides the courage, and we know that you are up here, and I love that you're speaking, not only here, but speaking at places, and I love that you had, I don't even know, I was sitting here like, to be able to stand up at that
the event,
speaking event and even speak at that point is like, that's God. That's God. That's God. Yeah. But I love what you're doing for others. But like, where are you now?
Still getting through.
Okay.
I'm still getting through. Still in a place to try and grow individually, grow my marriage wise, strengthen my marriage, strengthen myself, and just really try to get back to a place of trusting God again.
Okay.
And just kind of see where He wants me to be.
Okay.
What He wants me to do, because sometimes as a woman, as a wife, you look at having kids almost as a purpose, and when it doesn't happen, it's just like, okay, now what? Now what am I supposed to do? And then also, like, one of the things I got from my life coach is she told me that I have the, I can't remember exactly how she said it, but I have the desire to want to produce, whether it's someone or something. I have a desire to want to produce, because for me, and I don't know why I have this thought or this mindset, but I feel like I want to have something that lives on past me.
Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I always think about like, oh man, I'm not going to have a kid. So, when something happens to me, then, that's it. Like, I'm gone kind of a thing. And we have a stepson. So my husband has a son. He's 18 now. Love him to life. And at first there was maybe like the first or second pregnancies where I did struggle a little bit because it was that mindset like, well, he has his son, now it's different because that's our son, He has his mother, and rightfully so. But he's my baby too, I love him just the same. But I still have that. It's still that mindset of, he has his mother and his father, I want somebody to have me as a mother, and
Absolutely.
So when something happens to me, you can look at this little one and see me in that person, or, and one of the things that I've done, I slowed down a lot now, but I was very much, I think we had talked about this, where I was very much just being busy trying to build something, or trying to build a business, be a boss, just being busy, and it's really just masking what I'm really feeling. So you just become you just start doing when really you need to just stop and sit and be with yourself for a little bit. And it took, after this last miscarriage, that's kind of what stopped me, and actually caused me to stop and pause and spend more time home rather than being all over the place, I totally forgot why I started saying that.
But you were saying where you are.
Yeah.
No, you were saying
so
where you
now I'm in a place of just really trying to sit still to a point. Still trying to build, but differently, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Not trying to be all over the place anymore. That may be for someone else. It's not for me.
Gotcha.
So just trying to build and grow just in a different way.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
It does. I love it. I love it. So if you had to give someone who's listening advice or just some words of wisdom, what would you say to them?
Keep going. Keep going. Don't stop. You can fall, get back up. You can feel, but you have to feel and deal with it. And then get up and keep going. Don't stay stuck. Don't stay stagnant. Deal with the issue. Deal with how you're feeling, and then keep going. Keep moving forward.
I love that. I love that. I'm so glad that you came.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you were vulnerable and just transparent and laid it out on the table. And I really, truly believe that the listeners that are listening are going to be blessed. Can you tell people, is it okay if people want to reach out to you? Where they can find you, if you're on Instagram or Facebook?
So on Instagram, I actually just changed my name.
Okay.
So it's The Locked Lender.
Okay.
TheLockdLender.
Okay.
Facebook, you can find me through Lea Steed.
Okay.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Because I think people will be reaching out to you. And I feel like the more you tell your story, the more doors will open up, and I know that the Lord will bless you. What that blessing looks like, we never know, and how He does it. He is God. He is God. But I would just leave you with this: like, I never thought I was gonna have children, and I have two big boys who eat me out of house and home all the time. Who's probably listening to this, and I never thought. I never thought. So. Thank you for giving me more hope, too. You just blessed me. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Yes, definitely. We changed church.
Yes.
I'm like, Sharon. But thank you for being here. And we'll see you next time. See y'all later.